Hey, welcome back to the War Room. I'm your host, DJ Svihlik. Going to rock this one out solo today. Before we bring in our guest, who I'm really excited about, got a good guest as we get into our draft series and we start interviewing some prospects and we prepare the drafts just a few weeks down the road. I wanted to circle back on something we talked about a few episodes ago, a few weeks ago, and I get it now. I say high school pitching and everybody probably rolls their eyes. Certainly the pundits can roll their eyes. To some people, it's super risky. I understand that. But it's something we believe in. And I think reflecting back on my history as a scouting director and as an area scout and all these different things, I think the thing we have to understand is these teams are putting their draft boards together, understanding what the draft has to offer is really, really important. It's not always about one pick or two picks. It's about understanding what the market bears and how you can take advantage of that value. So when we look at the draft this year and I see names like Chase Burns and I see Hagen Smith and I see Trey Savage and Sinjay Tirangelo from Mississippi State, and then I feel like I'm starting to run out of names. But on the prep side, I hear Ryan Sloan, who we just interviewed last week, and Johnny King and Will Schmidt, and it's going to keep going. And it's Joey Oakey, and it's Tegan Coons, and it's Caminiti and Mayfield, and our guest today, David Shields, Dason Hill, and Braylon Doty, California. The list goes on and on and on. But teams have to have the confidence to take this stuff. I think with the high school pitching, with the prep pitching, do you have your checkpoints? Do you know exactly what you're looking for? What's important to you and what has success? What gives you the best opportunity for success and good outcomes? And do you trust your development? That's number two. You can't go down this road if you don't have this type of alignment. And then number three, are you willing to dive into the deep end of the pool and take multiple arms? And you can't use money as a crutch. That doesn't hold any water. Most teams have the dollars to do it. It doesn't have to just be Cleveland or Colorado that have big pools. It can be a lot of these different teams. Really, really important. We were willing to do it. I don't know what the outcomes are yet. We did take Jacob Miller. We were on Owen White, who the Braves took. We did take Thomas White and Noel Meyer, and we took Evan Fitterer, and we took Carson Milbrandt. These were all prep arms that we were willing to load up on because we see the value in pitching, and we understand what the draft's about. People that were around me, they knew. We did value offense in the first round, but the draft isn't just about the first round. The draft is about building a portfolio of players that can offer you the most value. The Pirates have done it. We talked about that. The Braves have done it. Are the teams this year going to be willing to do it? So we're excited today about our first guest. David Shields, one of the top high school left-handed pitchers in the country from Mount Lebanon, Pennsylvania. We welcome on David Shields. David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty great. Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, number one prospect in Pennsylvania. I'm going to get to Pennsylvania in a second because I have a theory here. One of the top high school pitchers in the country, a University of Miami signee, Johnny King, right? You know Johnny King, another Miami guy, a starting quarterback, one of the younger players in the draft this year, from a family background of success. Your dad's a golfer. Talk a lot about that. Tell us about, I want to hear about family, David. Tell us about where you're from. Tell us about some of the mentors you've had in your life, and tell us about some of the lessons you've learned along the way that have helped you get to where you are today.
Yeah. So born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Grew up playing football, baseball, and basketball. Stuck with football and baseball in high school. But yeah, I mean, as far as mentors go, I mean, I was raised by two great parents. I think they did a great job on raising me. And, you know, from the mental side of the game, like you said, my dad's a golfer. Golf is a very mental game. So he's taught me a lot of lessons in that aspect and just how to stay strong mentally. But yeah, I mean, the multiple sports things was great. Growing up, you got to learn different, you know, kind of attributes in each sport that you can take to one another. And I mean, just growing up, like the big thing for me is my mental game, you know. So I mean, I feel like that's a huge part in sports if you want to make it far. So just learning different lessons from sports in that aspect of growing my mind and staying strong mentally was very big for me in my upbringing. Different experiences, different pressure situations that I really valued that took me a long way. But yeah, like I said, Pittsburgh, multiple sports, and then yeah, like you said, I play quarterback, which is a big teacher in sports to say the least. So
You were one of the, when I was out last summer watching guys pitch, watching guys play, you were one of my favorite pitchers to watch. Calm, maybe it's the quarterback thing, maybe it's some of the things that you were talking about with your dad. Calm, cool, collected, whether you were pitching really well, whether you weren't pitching as well. You attribute that to your dad. Was that always part of who you were as a player? Were you always the low anxiety guy, or were there moments when you feel like the blood pressure rises and you sweat a little bit more, or have you always been cool under pressure? Is that just part of who you are?
yeah, I would just say that's just who I am. I mean, I take it very seriously when I'm out there, but at the end of the day, it's just a game. I'm a very competitive person, almost maybe a little too competitive. Sometimes it can get a little frustrating, but yeah, I mean, when I'm out there, I'm very calm. I try not to think too much about, you know, after the game what's going to happen or anything like that. I just try to keep it cool and simple out there and not stretch too much. And but yeah, no, that's something that's always kind of been.
And when did the football fall away? Was it this past year or the year before?
Yeah, this was my last year without it. It was a tough decision, or my first year without it. It was a tough decision to come to. But yeah, it was just one of the things where it felt like it was right. I mean, I love football, maybe even just as much as baseball. Yeah, I mean, the injury factor was just too high of a risk.
Sure.
And with my future that I saw I had in baseball, I feel like it just wouldn't have been smart to play one more year. Just the risk wasn't worth it.
And as you grew as a baseball player, you said as you saw your future in baseball, when did that start? Were you 12 years old? Were you 13? At what point did the light bulb go on and go, wait a second here, I'm pretty good at this baseball thing, and I'm going to continue to be good? Was this last year, the year before? When did that click for you?
I mean, it's been a while. I feel like as a kid, I always played upgrades, and like with my brother and stuff, I always play in you know, the older age groups. So I mean, I always knew that I was pretty good, but I mean, it doesn't really set in until you really start playing like national competition, and then you see where you stack up against everybody else. And you know, I did pretty well at a younger age, like 14 or so at national tournaments, and that's when I started to like. I always took it seriously, but that's when it kind of kicked on to the next level.
Sure. So you talk about experiences and things that you've had. Is there, maybe it's on the football field, maybe it's on the baseball field. Is there an athletic moment in your mind that's just etched in your mind that you always go back to and say, that's why I love sports? That's who I am on the field as a competitor. That's who I am as a pitcher, as a quarterback. What moment in your life, what experience did you have where you look back and go, man, I love thinking about that?
Like on the football side of things, a moment that I always probably won't ever forget is freshman year. You know, I wasn't starting yet. We had a very decorated 4-year starter in there. He was a great role model to look up to. And like we were undefeated up to this point. We were in the playoffs, game before the district championship. Our starter goes down, and I was a freshman at the time and didn't really know a whole lot of the playbook or anything like that. Stands are packed, things like that. We got a pretty big stadium, so I mean, it was filled up. They told me I was in, and I mean, I'm very, like I said, I'm very competitive. Like I was excited, but you know, another part of me is like, I don't really know the plays. Like, I mean, it's going to be kind of rough. Like the whole team's like seniors and everything. So, I mean, I got out there. I was shaking. Like, I don't really get that nervous, and I was pretty nervous out there just to not screw it up because the team was pretty good and they're expected to go far. So, I didn't want to be the end to all that. So, for me, I look back on that moment, and we ended up winning. We got through the game. And I look back on that moment for me, and it's just kind of, I felt like it was the turning point in my mind of like kind of just just having mental toughness and what that moment did for me and kind of turn things around for me and gave me a lot of confidence moving forward. I feel like I should never be scared in any situation anymore.
Yeah, I can see that. I grew up in Ohio, so I get the whole Ohio, Pennsylvania football thing. It's a big deal. And I can imagine Mount Lebanon, that's a big school, a proud tradition to be thrown out there as a freshman. How about this? A couple of words that you just mentioned as we were sitting here talking. You talked a little bit about, you said mental toughness. You talk about, there was some makeup stuff in there, work ethic, competitor. If you had to choose one or the other, I mean, you've done football and you've done baseball, and you know that both are important. Are you the competitor or are you the worker? You can only have one.
That's a good question. I mean,
we know both are important.
Yeah, I mean, both are very important. I like to think I have a pretty good work ethic. I take a lot of pride in that. But I mean, probably in my situation, I feel like competitor is probably the word I would go with, just because being a competitor like really gives me that drive to like have a good work ethic. I feel like, I feel like if you have a good work ethic, you're in the gym all the time, but once you get on the field, like it's a totally different game. Like none of that's, I mean, it matters, but none of that kind of goes out the window where you got to kind of turn on the competitive side. So I feel like that would probably be more important to me, even though, like you said, they're both very important.
Yeah, absolutely. When you moved into, you reclassified, right? You jumped up a class. You made that decision to do that, and you enter the summer with the Canes, right? You played with the Canes National.
Yeah.
You went through the USA program. When you reflect back on that summer, what are you the most proud of from summer of 2020 between 2023? What are you the most proud of? What did you do well? Where was that moment when people listening to this can say, that's who we're drafting? That's the guy right there. When was that moment for you where you're really proud?
For me, like I was really proud of I'm very confident in my ability. I feel like I can pitch against anybody or play against anybody. You never know until you really know. So, I mean, the summer was the first time that I actually like played in the older age in like recent years. So, I mean, I was very confident I was going to go out and do my thing, but I never really knew until I got out there. First time it was PDP in my first start. I went out there and in like 1, 2, 3, something like that. And it just kind of gave me the confidence to go out through the entire summer and just worry about competing, not any self-doubt, not that there was any, but like that was, I was going to get hit around or anything like that. So, I mean, probably the first time I went out and actually competed against the grade above, did what I was hoping I would do.
Yeah. Did you develop a lot over the summer? I didn't ask you yet about your pitch package. I know there's fastballs and curveballs and sliders and all that. What was the major development over the last 12 months for David Shields? Where did you feel like you really took a jump? It doesn't sound like it was mentally, because you're a competitive guy. You have a really nice support network behind the scenes. You had those moments like you talked about in football along the way. But as a baseball player, it's such a skill sport, and was there a moment along the way where you took a jump or you feel like you did something like, oh, there's my slider or there's my fastball? Or was it just a very natural progression?
I mean, it's always been kind of natural for me. Like I've never really had like a pitching coach or anything like that. So my whole life has just been kind of naturally progressing, like every year, just getting a little jump. And that's kind of what it felt like this year. It was an interesting summer how I didn't really pitch too many games. It was just like a couple innings here and there with all these like showcase games and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it was just a natural progression that I was pretty happy with. And it just took me throughout the entire summer.
And and I'm guessing routines are something that are part of your life. Yeah. Right. So you move into this off season. What were some goals? You were clearly, I told full disclosure, you were one of my favorite pitchers that I saw last summer. And, before you got on here today, I'm reading stuff like Ryan Sloan and Schmitty and Caminiti and Mayfield and Johnny King, who and it's a really nice class for high school pitchers. So when we were out there scouting, there was a lot of things to like. And I walked out of last summer and all I kept thinking about, maybe it's because of what I value, but when I walk out of last summer, I'm still with the Marlins and I'm going, tell me about this guy from Mount Lebanon. This guy can really pitch. He can really, really do it. So you already knew you were a prospect along with these other guys. What did you do this offseason as you moved into the fall? What type of goals did you have to take your game to the next level?
Yeah. So like
What'd you
I said,
focus on?
so I quit football this last season, so I had a little more time to focus on at least getting the high school season. So like you said, it was a big priority to start focusing on baseball. But I mean, leading up to the summer, I mean, for me, it was just getting stronger. Like that's always kind of what it's been for me is starting on my body rather than like, I feel like today's game, there's a lot of just trying to throw as hard as you can and impress the radar guns and stuff like that. For me, I wanted to build up my body as much as I could with the time that I had and really hone in on all my pitches and hit my spots and things like that. But yeah, I mean, getting my body in shape was huge for me leading up into the summer.
Were you out of shape? Did you feel like you were out of shape, or was it more, no, I need to be stronger in my lower half. I need to be strong in my legs. I need to do more Olympic movements. I need to, whatever it might be. Was it that?
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
Yeah. I mean, no, I definitely wasn't out of shape. I've always kind of had the same look growing up. I got with my trainer and we just really focused on things that we need to do to be a better pitcher and player in general. And for me, that's lower half, like you said. Like I want to get my legs as big as possible. I want big Saquon Barkley and Earl Campbell tree trunks. That's kind of the goal.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, lower body and I mean some upper body too. But I want to stay loose. But really focusing on like, being explosive, getting stronger, moving weight like faster rather than just picking up as much as you can. So things like that really translate to baseball.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the main focus of the offseason.
And it's tough because I know you went through this bout of mono, which was an obstacle for you that you didn't expect that to happen. I don't know when that was, December or January, or when that hit you, but it certainly was an obstacle that you didn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you clear it? How do you clear that? I've never had that. I have had COVID, so I do know what it feels like to be tired. But as a young athlete with these expectations, excitement, everybody's excited about what kind of spring you're going to have. How do you work through that as a young player?
It was really hard, and that's another challenge that I've just had to go through to see what I was made of, and I certainly learned a lot about myself. Yeah, I mean, going into the spring, like I said, I quit football to do all this work to get ready for the spring and things like that, and put on some good weight. I was in the best shape I've ever been, and velo was looking great and bullpens and stuff like that. And then right as the season starts, I mean, to get mono, lose 15 pounds, lose all my strength, and it was probably as big of a setback as I could probably imagine at that time. I'm lucky I didn't get it in the middle of the season because that would have been horrible. But yeah, I mean, it was really tough to overcome because the thing with mono is like you can't do anything. Like it's not like you take the hit and then you can just start working back up immediately. Like I had to take 4 weeks of doing nothing, just sitting on the couch like that, like because whatever, something can get hurt in your stomach and things can go bad. But I mean, I couldn't do anything for 4 weeks, so I had to sit through those 4 weeks while my team was playing and practicing and things like that. And it was really hard. Just the illness in general was hard. Like I had nurses come to my house and give me IVs and stuff like that. Jeez. But I mean, yeah, I mean after I was cleared to go, I mean, I just lifted as much as humanly possible, ate as much as I could, and tried to get back to where I was in like a 2-week span and get back on the mound. So, I mean, definitely wasn't ideal. But, yeah, I mean, I had to be back on the mound at time to help my team out and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was very hard. Numbers weren't nearly what I was hoping they were going to be at the start of the season. And it took me a while to ramp back up. And I feel like my last start or two maybe is where I was starting to kind of get the velo that I was hoping for in the spring, and then the season cut off. So I mean, it was very interesting season to say the least, but it was very hard.
So where are we now? I haven't seen you pitch this spring.
Yeah,
I've watched a bunch of video and whatnot, and I know what I saw. Where's the pitch package at right now? What are you really happy with? What feels great? Where's the velo? And what do you feel like today I'm really good at? Fill in the blank.
Yeah, I mean, so at the moment, I took a little break, taking like not throwing this whole week, just after my high school season and stuff. Yeah, right now I'm fastball, curveball, slider, changeup. Add a slider in like the middle of the season just to get another look. Velo right now, I think this high school season I topped it at not like 95 or something like that. And yeah, I'm not too worried about that, but I mean, obviously it's a factor that comes into play that, I mean, everybody needs velo. But yeah, I mean, my curveball worked really well for me this year, and that new slider that I was working on was looking good. I mean, I threw it in last minute, so I mean, it's still going to take some work, obviously. And I didn't throw the changeup a whole lot in high school, as a lot of like harder throwers in high school don't do, because it's just kind of like a slow fastball. So I'm working on getting that feel back, you know. But yeah, I mean, everything was really working for me. It was just a matter of getting back on the mound and getting the strength back and stuff like that to be ready to go.
You don't strike me as a big tech heavy guy. Success for you, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm sitting here listening to you, and I find myself thinking, success isn't numbers on a machine for David Shields. Mm-hmm. What's success for you? Results on the field?
Definitely not a tech guy for me. I've never used anything like that. I try not to worry about it. I like to learn how to pitch first and then progress from there, and next level wherever I'm at. I mean, if they want to introduce some of that stuff to me, I'll be more than willing to. But yeah, success for me, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's the way mine works is I want to dominate as much as possible and make hitters look as stupid as possible. It's just the way I think. Right. So I mean, that's just how my brain works. But I mean, I just want to go out there and have pure dominance. I know that's not going to happen every time, but that's my goal, going out there every time. And I mean, as far as, you know, major leagues or college or anything like that, I mean, just as many Cy Youngs as possible, as many All-Stars as possible, just everything that you would want to see in a pitcher. So, I mean, that's it for me.
So I mentioned some of these other names to you, and you guys all have the opportunity, all of you guys, because I think it's such a good prep class. And I say that full disclosure. I really like the prep class, from Sloan to yourself to Mayfield. There's a whole bunch of really good arms. And these teams are going to have to make some really tough decisions. And somebody's going to probably say, I'm not sure he throws hard enough. What's your message to that team?
You know, I mean, that's kind of what it's becoming in today's game, like I said earlier. And it's a little bit disappointing, just because, like, I mean, you look at all great pitchers and you look at them in high school, and they weren't nearly where they were at, where they are now. And I mean, if you want a 17-year-old to be throwing as hard as they will in their entire life, right then, I mean, that's – I don't know what to tell you. Like, I mean, I'm going to grow a lot more, and it'll get there. And I don't want to do it right now. Like, if you asked me when I was, you know, 16, 15, 14, like, people would always say, like, the velo isn't as high as it could be. Like, I don't want to be throwing that hard. Like, I want to progress naturally and stay healthy and things like that. So, I mean, if somebody will want more velo now, like, I would prefer to have it not that way, just so I can progress naturally and stay safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I wish more people had that perspective. I get the velocity thing, but there comes a point, no different if we're talking about a hitter and exit velocities. There comes a point where you have enough. And once you have enough, you can be really successful. You have enough bat speed, so you can become a really good hitter. You have enough velocity, so you can be a really good pitcher. And I think you make a great point. That stuff's going to come a lot more naturally as you go down the road. But we live in a world where everybody wants things like right now.
Exactly, now. Yeah.
And I think your mind's in a really good spot. What kind of goals you got going forward? You know, you talked about Hall of Fame. You talked about winning. You got a great opportunity at the University of Miami. You got a great opportunity if it's major league team selection. You go off and you start your pro career. What are you looking forward to, and what are you doing between now and then that's going to get you ready for that next opportunity?
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking forward to, I mean, whatever's next. I mean, whatever it is. Like, right now, I'm down at the university doing summer classes and workouts and stuff like that. So I mean, I'm just trying to put myself in the best position I can for whichever route I end up taking, and see where it goes. I'm just excited for the future. I'm out of high school now, thank God. Right. So I mean, whatever route I end up going, I'm just looking forward to it, to getting out and starting whichever lane I take. But yeah, no, I'm really excited.
Yeah. Good stuff, David. I really appreciate having you on today. I don't want to take too much of your time. Enjoy the warm weather down in Miami, and best of luck as you move forward into whatever path you choose to take.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, David. Okay, so there you have it. David Shields, left-handed pitcher, one of the top left-handed pitchers in the country from Mount Lebanon, Pennsylvania. I'm always intrigued by Pennsylvania. Just one of the most underrated baseball states in the country. When you look at some of the big 3 or 4, and you look at Texas and California, and you got Georgia, of course, and Pennsylvania. I think we need to do something on Pennsylvania. What a great athletic state, whether it's football or it's baseball. And one of the things I wanted to talk to him about, maybe we circle back on this with him. Players that are good in Pittsburgh. Cole Young, Neil Walker, for those of you that remember Neil Walker, Alex Kirilov. It always seems to me that Pittsburgh is one of those cities that when a player is good in Pittsburgh, that's a good bet to make. I just think there's great athletic heritage in the area. I think people are really serious about their sports. And I think it really helps these young players as they move into their professional career. And some of them, like J.J. Weatherholt, he ends up at the University of West Virginia. But the list goes on and on and on of really good players that come out of the state of Pennsylvania. Maybe it was something we should get into a little bit later. As far as David Shields go, what a bright young man, a confident young man. I think about, what do we know here? We've got a 2-sport athlete. Don't see those too often. We got one of the younger guys in the draft with a big, strong body. We've got a full pitch package. We've got a great track record of success both in football and in baseball. Clearly self-aware, clearly confident, humble. I think there's some sneaky, ultra quiet competitor in that guy. He's got a great support network behind the scenes. Like I just mentioned, he comes from an area that produces talent. And I think when the velocity stabilizes, increases a little bit, you've got the opportunity to have one heck of a prep arm. I want to wrap today up with a story. I was thinking about this when I was getting ready for this episode. It's summer of 2005. I'm out as a young area scout. I started in 2003, and I'm still trying to get my legs under me as a scout. And I'm watching this young pitcher, and he is carving guys up in the summer. It's 85, it's 87. He's not throwing as hard as David Shields, but he's getting the same results. And I knew he was good. Get up on him. He's athletic. You knew he was athletic, how he moved athletically in his delivery, how he moved off the mound. You follow him into the spring, and the velocity starts to grow. He's 6'3", operations great, command to both sides of the plate. Unlike David, this is a changeup guy, but he's got great feel to pitch. And just like this, we had a great in-house visit. Great temperament, good support network behind the scenes. And I remember I had my cross-checker go in to see him. And he called me after the game, and he said, still to this day, one of my greatest mentors was my cross-checker. And he was such a great teacher when I was a young scout. And I remember he said to me, after the second inning, I kind of wanted to leave. But by the 5th inning, 6th inning, 7th inning, I knew exactly why you wanted me in that ballpark. Now, this player ends up going to college. And the following year, that young player who was a tremendous pitcher with a really good delivery and had all these great attributes from athleticism and strength, and it turns into walking out of the bullpen at the University of Arkansas, was not pitching for Arkansas. That was the time that I saw him after his senior year. And I remember the conversations in the draft room, why we passed on the player, why we weren't willing to make that commitment to the player as a high school draft. And the first pitch out of his hand was 93. And it was then and there, it was clearly obvious what Mikey Minor was on his way to become. And by 2009, he was a top 5 pick of the Braves. And 11 years later, he's still in the big leagues with, I think he's approaching 17, 18 WAR, something like that. So I really think the lesson here is that the velocity is the one thing that's holding you up. And that pitcher has everything else. Don't make that excuse. For all of us at the War Room, I'm DJ Svihlik, and I'll see you next time.